what I love about this podcast is sitting down with people that know what being all in means, right? Because it doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means.
No. Mitchell, what you just say
it doesn't, right? And it's the way that I like to try to frame it is if you speak to somebody that you know has been there, whatever there is defined as, and then you will talk to other people and they're going to say, well, yeah, I'm all in. So if it's powerlifting, whatever it is, and then you're thinking of what your all in was.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to compare it to what their all in is. And you're thinking,
this is not the same.
Yeah. You're like, your all in is like 20% of what mine was. But to them, their all in is their all in.
Yeah.
Because that's all they know as being what that is. Where there's levels, of this thing, whatever.
A lot of people think that they're all in or they're, I'm committed, whatever it takes. Yes. I've heard that so many times, but it's really hard to kind of level and reason with people whenever you know what all in means, what whatever it takes means.
Yes.
And most of the time, whenever you talk to people that actually have been there, you don't have to remind them that you were all in. You don't have to remind people that know that, I'll do whatever it takes. You can see it. You can see in the results. And that is one thing that just truly I've always been. And no matter what the task is, I'm going to be all in no matter what it is.
Yeah, so I think the big thing with that is they'll always say that they're all in until you ask them to do something that's not convenient for their all in. So like you're all in until
it gets hard.
We recommend you need to sleep, 8 hours a day. Then they're not all in anymore. They're just all in for what they conveniently want to be all in for. Where
all in for training. So all in for 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day. All in means from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed and when you go to bed.
And for the result to impact the outcome. So whatever it takes to be able to get that outcome, where that's where that 5 years, 4 years, a year for whatever, it doesn't matter, 10 year, what is that all in now? Now wait, you see, if it's 30% all in over 10 years, well, that doesn't compare to somebody that's 90 or 100% all in over one.
Yeah.
And there's shortfalls, there's pros and cons, to that.
Absolutely.
That's where that conversation gets interesting. The higher up somebody gets on that thing, because the cons, they do outweigh the pros. And when you step back and look back, you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change anything.
Absolutely not.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
So how did you, before we get into that, how did you get involved with just strength training in general? Where did that start from?
So I was a college athlete. I played college softball, and once I got done playing college ball, I'd always trained, and I loved, the 2-a-days, and I loved working hard. But I needed an outlet to be competitive. I knew that I'm wired a little different, right? And so I knew I needed an outlet to be competitive at. And I trained with a bunch of local bodybuilders at the gym, and, just me and a bunch of big guys. And they were like, you're pretty strong for a girl. Have you ever thought about powerlifting? And I was like, strong for a girl? Okay, well, watch this, And so I was like, well, I'll try it. And I did my first meet at Donnie Thompson's compound in Columbia, actually. And Donnie Thompson saw me compete. I had no idea what I was doing, but he was like, you have a little potential. You should probably keep at this, And so I was like, okay, well, if he says that I should probably keep at this, I might have a shot. So I just continued to train, and I put all of my emphasis in powerlifting and strength sports, which was something I'd never done before because I was an athlete. So I was thinking about, the quote unquote functional training or, just speed to go along with, not just raw strength. And so I put my all in pretty much then. Whenever I competed, it was 2014. And that was when I started my career in powerlifting.
If you're playing collegiate softball, well, I assume that you started playing when you were young.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah.
So what age did you start playing?
I probably started playing softball. I played baseball first because I didn't want to play with the girls. The girls were just wussies, and I wanted to play with people that were good. So I played with the boys, played baseball first. Probably, I think, when I was about 13. 13 was when I started, and then I transitioned over to, I think, softball when maybe I was like 15, 16. And so I started playing softball. I played for like travel leagues. I played just all around all year, and I loved it. I loved playing sports, and I loved just having, I was pretty much a team lead everywhere I went, and I loved being able to have, my team behind me, and I loved just being able to, okay, if I was struggling, if I was in a slump, I could just okay, I'll stay after practice and I'll take 100 cuts. Like, I want to be better. And I've always just loved the idea that I'm good, but I can be better. And if you want to be a leader, you've got to be willing to put that effort in to be better. So that's something that no matter the sport or whatever it is, I've always wanted to be the best that I could be at whatever sport. So that was where it kind of started, was playing softball.
With how was the powerlifting aspect? Because you said you were looking for something to be competitive. And did you feel like towards the end of the softball, it was no longer competitive enough for you?
It was still competitive, but I say, once you graduate and you're, a normal person, athletic, a non-athletic regular person after college, right?
Yeah.
I just needed something because I wasn't waking up for, the 5 a.m. conditioning anymore. I wasn't, have the strict practices and strict training schedule like that. So I needed something that I realized I thrived well when I had a schedule, when I had a really strict routine. So a nice system set in place. So I felt like I still needed that, but I needed there to be a goal at the end of it. So I wasn't just having a system for just my training, exclusively. I wanted to be able to push and have markers. So with powerlifting, you have the strength markers and you have kind of, some progression there. So that gave me a good basis to go with there. So that was
I get it. I was thinking when you were speaking earlier that you transitioned from softball into powerlifting while you were in college. So you basically took the softball as far as it could be taken. Yeah, I did. And then it's just like,
I needed something. Yeah. There was a hole. There was a hole, and I needed something to kind of tune this in. So.
Okay. So how did the powerlifting, how did that fall into that then? So I get that you went to Donnie's meet. Yeah. So you're in a gym training somewhere and somebody says something. Yep. Like, tell me about that.
I pretty much just trained like a bodybuilder, essentially. Yeah. I trained with a group of bodybuilders, and I would always, if I couldn't do the, say, shoulder presses with like 50 or 60 pounds, if I would go all in, I would just go till failure. And if I couldn't do them this week, I would say, okay, I'm going to do them next week. And so I just kept linearly progressing, to start with. And then I just kept getting stronger and stronger. And I love the bench press. Bench press for me has always been, squat is the one that gets me going, but bench press, especially for a chick, I was benching 185, just some bro touch and go reps, but I was benching 185 in high school, right? Because I wasn't afraid of it. I was afraid of squatting, truly. I was afraid of squatting. I didn't really know what I was doing. I never had a coach. But benching, you're just laying down, taking a nap, and it felt powerful, right? And to be good at something that not a lot of other girls were good at, that gave me a little bit of, just kind of confidence moving forward. And so I realized that I was good at these things, and that there wasn't, powerlifting wasn't a real sport whenever, especially in South Carolina, rural South Carolina, nobody was really doing this, and it wasn't at the level that it is now. Yeah. I was just one of those gym freaks that was just yelling and screaming in the corner, lifting heavy weights, right? To get out my feelings. But that was where I started, and I realized after doing Donnie's meet that I was pretty good at this, especially not knowing anything that I was doing. I showed up to the meet and I had committed to myself, I'm going to have the biggest total here. Like, of all the women, I don't care. And Donnie did something that meet. I don't know if he's, if it's still something that he does, but it was just about highest total. So no matter your weight class, no matter what. And I think I was a tiny 148. I remember weighing in, and they was like, oh, you're a little 148. I think I weighed in like 138 or 139. But I was determined from the time I walked in there that I was going to outlift every single one of those girls. 181ers, heavies, I was going to outlift all of them. And I came pretty close. I came 10 pounds under there was a 181. I still remember her name. I still remember, you never forget when you first get beat, right? So I remember I came 10 pounds underneath her, and I was really upset with myself. I was like, man, I didn't do it. I didn't do what I set out to do in my very first meet, not knowing anything. But I was like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get better. And so then it just sparked in me that I wanted to do this. And I continued, training and stuff. And a couple people contacted me after this meet. It was a small federation, a backyard federation, honestly. And somebody contacted me and said, oh, Stacy, you're 10 pounds off of a junior world record. And I thought that was highly, I thought that was something really impressive then, right? I was like, oh, a world record, me? And I was like, It just opened up my eyes, because I was a small town country girl. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew who I was, but I was determined that I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to do something in this life that just nobody could take away from me. And so it just opened up my eyes. And at this point, I told my biggest fans, one of my grandpa, I was like, hey, grandpa, I was like, I'm 10 pounds off of a world record. Can you believe that? And he told me something that changed the direction of my life. He said, of course I can believe it. He said, you're the strongest woman in the world. And just, I took that, I put it in my pocket, and I lived with that. I lived with that somebody told me that I was the best, the strongest woman in the world. So you know what? It was just up to me to prove it. So that was pretty much the chip that was on my shoulder was, I can do this. I can be the absolute very best there's ever been. All you got to do is just work. Because that's the only thing that I've ever been taught was how to work.
Yeah.
I had never been coached. I had never been formally, anything like that. All I knew was that if I just kept showing up and I kept figuring out ways to get better and better and better, even if it was minutely, right? But if I kept showing up and doing the things, I was going to get better. And I knew that there was, in my mind, there was nobody out there that was working as hard as me. There was nobody out there that was going to give this much effort and energy.